Okay, so we've got this really interesting set of articles and notes all about self-care. And, one thing that kind of jumped out at me right away
Yeah.
was this underlying sense of guilt
Oh, yeah.
that seems to come up whenever we even think about taking time for ourselves.
For sure.
It's like there's this voice in our head saying, we should always be doing more.
Right. Like we should always be productive or accomplishing something.
Exactly.
And that feeling really resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
It's almost as if our worth gets tied to how busy we are.
Right.
And constantly being on the go.
Yeah, like we're only valuable if we're checking things off a to-do list.
Exactly.
So what we really want to explore today is this idea that self-care, it's not selfish.
Right.
It's actually essential.
It really is.
For living a healthy and balanced life.
Absolutely foundational.
And we're going to use what you sent us.
Okay.
To kind of dive deep into why self-care matters so much.
Sounds good. Yeah.
And then we'll get into some practical ways to actually build it into your routine.
I like it.
So when we talk about self-care, I think a lot of people might picture like these luxurious, maybe even unrealistic scenarios.
For sure.
Like spa days or those week-long retreats. But from what you shared, it seems like it goes way deeper than that.
Absolutely.
So what's the real definition of self-care?
So those indulgent moments can definitely be part of it.
Okay.
But at its core, self-care is about making intentional choices.
Okay.
To really nurture your mental, emotional, and physical well-being.
Got it.
It's about supporting yourself proactively.
Okay.
Rather than just reacting when you're already burned out.
That makes sense.
Think of it like essential maintenance.
Okay.
That keeps everything else running smoothly.
I see. So it's not just about treating the symptoms when we're already stressed out.
Exactly.
It's about building a buffer or resilience.
Yeah, like a preventative measure.
So we don't get to that point as often.
Exactly.
And when we practice self-care consistently,
the
benefits really start to add up.
You do, for sure.
And your sources highlighted some key areas where self-care makes a real difference.
I'm interested to hear what you found.
Well, one of the biggest ones was stress and anxiety reduction.
Of course.
It seems pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But can you talk a bit more about how taking time for ourselves actually helps manage those feelings?
So what happens is actually pretty fascinating.
Okay.
When you carve out time for self-care, you're basically telling your nervous system that it's safe to relax.
Okay.
Things like deep breathing or being in nature.
Right.
Can trigger your parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for that rest and digest response.
Got it.
And that helps counteract the effects of chronic stress.
Interesting. So it's like hitting a reset button for our body and mind.
Yes.
And your sources also mention how self-care can boost mental clarity and productivity. Yeah.
Which seems a little counterintuitive.
I can see why you'd say that.
You'd think taking time off would make you less productive.
Right.
Not more.
Well, think of it this way.
Okay.
If your mind is always racing and overwhelmed, it's like trying to run a computer with too many programs open.
Oh, I see.
Self-care gives those mental processes space to settle.
Okay.
Which leads to better focus, improved concentration, and ultimately more effective work.
It's like defragmenting your mental hard drive.
Exactly. A clear mind is a more efficient one.
Definitely.
Right?
And this is something I found really interesting. The impact of self-care on our relationships.
Interesting.
How does looking inward actually make us better for the people around us?
It all comes down to emotional regulation.
Okay.
When you engage in emotional self-care, whether that's through journaling or mindfulness, you become more aware of your own feelings.
Yeah.
And you learn to manage them in a healthy way. That makes sense.
This self-awareness lets you respond to others with more empathy and patience.
Okay.
Instead of reacting impulsively when you're stressed or drained.
So you're saying that by taking care of our own emotional well-being, we're actually better equipped to handle the complexities of our relationships.
Exactly.
It's like that airplane safety demonstration. You have to put on your own oxygen mask first before you can help anyone else.
That's a perfect analogy.
And it speaks to this common misconception that self-care is selfish.
Yeah, a lot of people think that.
One of the articles you shared really emphasized this point.
Oh, really? What did it say?
With a quote, it said, "You can't pour from an empty cup."
Oh, wow. That's so true.
It's such a simple but powerful way to explain that we need to replenish our own resources before we can effectively care for others.
For sure.
It's not about being self-absorbed. It's about making sure we have the capacity to engage fully and positively with the world and the people we care about.
Absolutely.
And your sources also highlighted the benefits of self-care for our physical health.
Right. It's not just mental and emotional.
Exactly.
It impacts our physical well-being, too.
Absolutely. The choices we make in terms of physical self-care.
Like what?
Like prioritizing sleep.
Yes.
Eating nutritious foods and moving our bodies.
For sure.
All of that has a direct impact on our overall well-being.
It really does.
It affects everything from our energy levels to our immune system.
Exactly.
So we're clear on why self-care is so important.
Yeah, we've established that.
But the question I'm sure you, the listener, are asking is how do we actually fit this into our lives?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Especially when we're already so busy.
Right. Everyone's schedules are packed.
How do we even begin to create a self-care routine that feels doable?
That's where breaking it down into different areas can be really helpful. Your sources outlined 5 key domains of self-care.
Got it.
And this gives us a really good framework to think about what might work for you.
Okay, so let's walk through those.
That's good.
The first one is physical self-care.
Right.
What are some concrete examples of what that could look like in a daily or weekly routine?
Well, think about movement you enjoy.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be hours at the gym.
Right.
It could be a quick walk during lunch, some stretching in the morning, or even dancing to your favorite music.
Okay.
And then there's how you're fueling your body.
Right.
Choosing nutritious foods can make a big difference.
In terms of?
Your energy and your mood.
Okay.
And, of course, prioritize sleep.
Yes, sleep is so important.
It really is.
Aim for a consistent sleep schedule to
Yeah.
let your body and mind properly rest and recover.
Makes sense. Those are the foundational things.
Right, the basics.
That keep us going.
Okay, what about emotional self-care?
Yeah.
That one can feel a bit more abstract.
It can, but it's really about creating healthy ways
Okay.
to acknowledge and process your emotions.
Got it.
So this might involve journaling, to explore your thoughts and feelings,
Okay.
or practicing mindfulness or meditation
Right.
to create space for your feelings without judgment,
That's interesting.
or even talking to a trusted friend or therapist
Okay.
to work through what you're experiencing.
So it's about creating those healthy outlets.
Exactly.
Instead of letting emotions build up.
Yes, give yourself permission to feel
And process those feelings.
in a supportive way.
Okay. Then we have mental self-care.
Yeah.
How do we actively nurture our minds?
Well, your sources mention things like reading,
Okay.
learning a new skill,
Right.
or engaging in hobbies that challenge your intellect.
Yeah.
It's about stimulating your mind.
In enjoyable ways.
Exactly. Whether that's a good book,
Uh-huh.
a puzzle,
Yeah.
or an online course.
Right.
Keep your mind active and engaged.
Yeah. Beyond just work and daily tasks. I like that it's about feeding our curiosity and staying mentally agile.
Exactly.
And then there's social self-care,
Yeah.
which seems pretty straightforward.
It is on the surface.
But it's still so important.
Oh, absolutely. Vital for our well-being.
So what does that look like?
Social self-care is about spending time with people who support you,
Okay.
uplift you,
Right.
make you feel good,
Got it.
nurture those positive connections,
Yeah.
and set boundaries with relationships that drain you.
Interesting. So it's about being intentional
Yes.
with who we spend our time with.
Exactly. Even a short, meaningful conversation
Okay.
can make a difference.
So quality over quantity.
Exactly.
And finally, we have spiritual self-care.
Right?
Now, one of your sources mentioned that this isn't necessarily tied to religious beliefs.
It's not.
Can you talk more about that?
Absolutely. Spiritual self-care is about connecting with something bigger than yourself,
Okay.
finding meaning and purpose in your life. For some, that might be prayer or meditation,
Right.
but it could also be spending time in nature, feeling a sense of awe,
Yeah.
engaging in creative pursuits, or volunteering for a cause you care about.
So it's about nurturing your inner self.
Yes.
And connecting with your values.
Exactly.
And I think a key takeaway from all of this
Yeah.
is that it doesn't have to be this huge thing.
Right?
Small, consistent efforts
Yes.
in any of these areas can really add up over time.
Absolutely. Consistency is key.
More so than those big one-time efforts.
For sure. Incorporating small habits, daily or weekly, is much more sustainable and impactful
than trying to do these elaborate things every once in a while.
Exactly.
Which brings us back to that feeling of guilt.
Oh, yeah, that nagging feeling.
Because even when we understand why self-care matters, and we have ideas for what to do, that voice often pops up saying, you have more important things to do.
You should be more productive.
Exactly.
That guilt often comes from societal messages that tell us busyness equals worthiness.
Interesting.
So the first step is to challenge those beliefs and reframe your perspective.
So how do we do that?
Well, as your sources pointed out, taking care of yourself isn't a luxury.
Right.
It's a necessity that actually makes you more productive and engaged.
So it's a shift.
Yes.
From seeing it as a treat to seeing it as a fundamental need.
Exactly, like sleep or nutrition.
Okay, so practically speaking, what are some strategies we can use?
One key strategy is to actually schedule your self-care.
Oh, interesting.
Treat it like an important appointment.
Put it in the calendar.
Yes. Block out that time. And commit to it.
That makes it feel more real.
Exactly. It validates its importance.
What about those days where it feels like there's literally no extra time?
That's where the start small approach comes in. Even 5 or 10 minutes can make a difference.
Wow. So even small chunks of time can be beneficial.
Absolutely. A few minutes of mindful breathing. A short walk. Listening to calming music. Or reading a few pages.
Those little things can add up.
They really can.
And sometimes we get caught up in this idea that self-care has to look a certain way.
Right, like those perfect images online.
Exactly.
Let go of that perfectionism. Your self-care doesn't have to be elaborate or Instagram-worthy. It just needs to nurture you.
Find what works for you.
Exactly. And be flexible.
And learning to say no.
Yes, setting boundaries is crucial.
That feels like a really important skill.
It is. Learning to say no to requests or commitments that will drain you. Create space for activities that replenish you.
So it's about knowing your limits.
Yes.
And honoring them without guilt.
Exactly.
And ultimately, all of these shifts, reframing our mindset, scheduling self-care, starting small, letting go of perfection and setting boundaries,
for sure,
they lead to us feeling more energized,
absolutely,
more balanced, and more fulfilled.
Exactly.
By prioritizing self-care. We're investing in our well-being.
And that has a ripple effect.
Oh, how so?
It impacts every part of your life.
Like what?
Your work, relationships, even your overall sense of joy.
So it all comes back to that core message.
Right.
Self-care isn't selfish.
It's essential.
For a healthy and balanced life.
Absolutely.
And when you take care of yourself, everyone around you benefits too.
It's true.
It's not just about you.
Right. It's about everyone you interact with.
Exactly.
And remember, self-care is a journey. It's not a destination.
You're not a one-time thing.
Exactly. It's about checking in with yourself, noticing your needs, and responding with kindness and intention.
So for you listening, take some time to think about what we've talked about. Start small, be consistent, and give yourself permission to prioritize your well-being.
You deserve it.
You really do.
And as someone who loves to learn and expand your understanding of the world,
that's our listener.
Think about how much more effectively you can engage with new information, process complex ideas, and pursue your intellectual curiosity when you're coming from a place of inner peace and resilience.
Versus feeling depleted and overwhelmed.
Exactly.
So those small acts of self-care can have a huge impact.
They can.
On your ability to learn and grow.
For sure.
It's all connected.
It really is.
Self-care is the foundation.
Absolutely.